I've always felt in my heart that the profits are the byproduct of a valuable
That's right.
purpose, a worthwhile purpose.
Welcome to today's episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. My name is David Gilliland. I'm one of your hosts here on this bright sunny day. We've got August Radbill with Far Out Ice Cream joining us from Massachusetts. August, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, David.
We are excited to talk with you, not just because I am a fan of really good ice cream, but because you're doing something pretty cool. And let's hear a little bit about it. First, how did you get started? Because this isn't just like you're selling, the run of the mill ice cream or something. You got a little unique story and a connection to New Zealand. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so starting from the beginning, I was in tech out of school for about 5 or 6 years, and was doing well relative to my peers or whatever, and but generally unfulfilled, and was on a path that I saw myself, the direction I was going and how I wanted my life to go, and it just kind of get further and further and further away from that idea. And I had somewhat of a breakdown, we'll say, not like losing my mind, but started to rid myself of a lot of the things that I thought identified myself as me, and I left the job, and you know I guess the core question was like, who am I? And I had a hard time answering that question. I was in sales. I wasn't a great golfer. Like, I played basketball every now and then, but like that was it. Like, it wasn't. I didn't think there was enough depth to that, and so I just started to kind of simplify it and focus on my health. And ultimately, I'd always wanted to travel, and I convinced myself. And I was 27 at this point. I convinced myself that was too late. I had gone too far to really take some time to travel, but I realized I had saved a bunch of money and that I was capable of doing that. And that was the plan. And I had heard about woofing in New Zealand, which is working on organic farms. It's a great program. And I recommend it to anyone who's looking to travel around the world inexpensively. And before I left, my current business partner, who is a much older man, his name is Drew Beja. He manages a portfolio, and he does a lot of traveling. And his daughter actually lived in New Zealand for 4 years. And I went to a dinner party at his house before I left. And we got to talking. He said, "What do you do in your life?" And I said, "I'm about to travel." He goes, "Where are you going?" I go, "New Zealand." He goes, "Oh, you gotta try the ice cream there." And I'm thinking to myself, whatever, man. Like, I'm not going to New Zealand to try ice cream, but it had some real estate in my head, and I thought about it, and put it there, and left. And about 4 months into New Zealand, and I bought a car, and I was working on farms, and then I would go trek for several weeks, and then farm the trek, do that, rinse and repeat again and again. And it was extremely exciting, and I was learning a lot about myself, and putting myself in uncomfortable positions and seeing how I show up. And I get to this town. It's a beautiful, New Zealand town, and I see this sign that says "real fruit ice cream served here," and that's what they call it. They don't call it New Zealand style ice cream. Um, and I said, "Oh, this must be what Drew was talking about." And I tried it, and I loved it. And I was like, "This is super interesting. There's this really interesting process to making it. This might have legs." But again, didn't really think too much of it. And when and then I continued to travel for the rest of the year. And when I got back, I told no one that I was home, but Drew found out, and invited me to dinner. Played it really cool the entire dinner party, and at the very end, he said, "Have you thought about ice cream?" And I said, "Drew, I haven't stopped." And he goes, "That's the right answer." So the goal has always been to scale the concept to make it a national or international thing. And we've developed a team of advisors, and a really really good internal team, and we've grown from there. So that's kind of the baseline story.
Very cool. So you're off trying to figure out who you are, and you decide to stumble in on a business instead. Start playing that. Oh, I love that. Um, when when you began to put together your advisors, how did you select who should be in that kind of the in crowd of advice? to help you really scale this? What would you think about?
Yeah. Yeah. So we're very lucky. Like one, Drew is, really well connected, which is great. His his partner, she's a entrepreneur in residence at HBS, and uh, he just has a lot of people in his network, which are great, and everyone loves ice cream, and it's a really cool and fun concept, and I think we're doing it the right way. So that part was easy. We had one someone from his network that has joined on, and he's a CEO, COO, interim CEO, COO to a number of businesses. That's his role, kind of a gun for hire. And he comes in and um, I always say that he's a master at doing like one thing really, really well. And that is like developing infrastructure and like, getting people to do what they need to do when they need to do it. He holds people accountable better than any human being I've ever met in my life. And in the beginning, he was very, very helpful. And then the other person was from my network, a gentleman named Kip Colo, he started Boston Market, the chicken company, rotisserie chicken. I don't know if you're familiar with it. And then now he's a chief strategy officer at another fast casual chicken company down in Texas and Oklahoma called Cowboy Chicken. So he had been in my life for a while. He was actually a patient of my father's. My father was a doctor, and he just stayed in my life, and then we were doing this and I started to ask him a bunch of questions and continued to ask a bunch of questions, and I think he saw that this had legs, and uh, he took an interest in it, and then it was pretty organic from there to have him come on as an advisor, and he's been an excellent help for us throughout this process. David, I can't hear you.
I imagine you started off kind of thinking pretty big, like we could really take this big. And now, who who do I need? Who will help me? Right? I love that you found organization, structure, and accountability, and then you found somebody who knows how to take kind of franchise model type thing and grow it big, right?
Hmm.
uh, who's been in the fast food industry, something could serve up quickly and move on, which has, it doesn't matter, chicken, ice cream. I mean, it moves, and that's what matters. So I love that. Since you've been growing, I mean, I know it hasn't been all easy. You can get great advisors, still it's hard work. That's what entrepreneurship is. Since you passed your $1 million mark, what are some of the keys that really helped you to continue to grow at this point?
Yeah. um, Well, I think there's a lot there. I think, the first thing is, we have been always of the mind that, like, there's a really good book called The One Thing that I read a while back, and then I read it again, and I've read it again. And, that they emphasize that if you solve for the one thing, everything else becomes easier. And for us, it's always been people. So finding, really, really good people um, is a great one. And, I think I'm a big tribal leadership, another really good book, guy, where I think if you align people with a mission, something that is bigger than themselves, and they latch onto that, then you're going to have some really committed people past just serving ice cream. And that's always been our thing is we're serving happiness, we're making people happy, we're making our team happy, we're making the community happy. And we really believe that we have not only a product, but we align with enlightened hospitality, which is a model by Danny Meyer, the Shake Shack guy, in Union Square Hospitality, which is like solve for your team first. You put them in positions that they're happy, and then uh, you know intrinsically they're going to be giving that happiness to the customer. So I solve for the managers solve for the supervisors, the supervisors solve for the team is put in a position where they can just make ice cream and make people happy. Everything becomes easier from there. So it's just, the first thing is hiring good people. And we've been extraordinarily lucky, in a time in my industry as well, or I should say this industry, where it just seems like everyone's like, oh, if you had trouble finding people, we have never, I'm going to knock on wood, we have never had trouble finding not just people, but good, great people. We've been so, so lucky. And then, my core team, they are, this has been one of the most fulfilling parts of the job, is like they are more engaged and more committed to Far Out Ice Cream than I am, which is just incredible. And it, I'm so lucky in that regard that they wake up and they think about this every day, and that's made this very, very easy. So that's kind of the biggest one, to help us get to this point. Um, there's a million. If I could name another one too, I think in the beginning, you know, I wasn't playing the right game. I wasn't solving the right problems. I was just thinking about this as like, I don't even know how I was thinking about it, but it's just like, yeah, let's just try to serve as much ice cream as possible. And like, that's still, a component, but now, we have our financial reporting in order, which, has been, I mean, it's never going to be perfect. It's getting better and better and better. And it's leaps and bounds better than it was 3 years ago. And it's leaps and bounds better than it was a year ago. And it's going to be leaps and bounds better, next year. But the point is that we have reliable reporting, and that allows us to localize issues month to month, week to week, so we actually know what's going on and how we can become more profitable. And then we have a reliable budget or goal every single month and every single year that we're creating, which again, that galvanizes the team to like, these are the missions. And then we can manage better because we have OKRs that are actually objective. It's not like, yeah, and something out there. It's like, no, you have to keep our cost of goods down to 21% every single month, and hourly labor cost needs to be at 14% every single month, and you either did it or you didn't. So that has been big game changer, and I don't know what we were doing before, but it wasn't that. So I'd say those two things.
Well, it's interesting because I mean, you used the term lucky when it came to finding the right people, and I want to call you on that because I don't see it as luck. Tell us a little bit more about how you luckily found those people. Get a little more clear.
Well, I don't know, David, if you listen to the "How I Built This" podcast, but that's a big question at the end of every, So, and I've grappled with that as well. But, um, you know, how we have found these people. Well, I think there are components to it that are lucky, but I think one, I think it's the area. Brookline is a great area with a great high school, school system, and then we're right next to Boston University and Boston College and Northeastern, where we get a lot of our, mostly Boston University. Um, but if I'm leaning more towards the luck is preparation and opportunity meeting each other. I Drew and I in the very beginning said, all right, what are the two things that, or what are the things that we need to focus on in the beginning? And we said customer experience and brand. We put a lot of resources towards our brand, and focusing on the customer experience. Even before we sold our first cone, we were working with an agency, and they're tremendously talented and put together this really fun, cool, exciting brand. And the store is really, really nice looking, and we spent a lot of time with that. And so I think there are aspects of it that I think people walk by and they say, wow, this is a really cool thing. And it's ice cream. This is fun. This would be a great job to have. So I think there's components of that. But I also do think, we are big in, one of our core values is, team first. And again, that's a enlightened hospitality thing. That's not a Far Out or August thing. We identify and solve for the team, and we're constantly, running polls and making sure that, we are putting them in a position where they can just be happy. And, it's no joke volume that we do. I mean, I come in on, I just came in, had a low grade panic attack on, I think it was on Thursday. I came in and, it was line out the door, store was packed, and I came in, and I do this all the time, and I act as if I'm just a regular person, and I'll say, hey, how's the ice cream here? Like to someone, and they'll say, it's great, but I waited, 30 minutes, and then or I waited 20 minutes. And, that rips my heart out for a variety of reasons. One, it's a bad customer experience. Two, I know that we're losing money. That's the other thing. So, um, I'm sorry, this is too much of a tangent, but the point is, I'm trying to say that the job isn't easy all the time. It's a very difficult job, but I do think that we try to acknowledge and listen to our team. And from that, it becomes a really, I mean, we have really good retention rates for a job that is unbelievably high attrition. We have, kids that started as freshmen in high school, and they come back when they come home from college. We're very lucky in that regard. I do think it's a combination of both.
Yeah, I'm going to throw the luck right out the window because the things I've heard you say is first, I over and over, at least before we got on the call, and you've hinted at some of it. You're doing something more than just pushing a product, and your team's experience. Not just do they have a purpose they get to serve and to go and create happiness, which for the listeners who haven't grasped this yet, um, a $20 an hour or $15 an hour at one place is not equal to $15 or $20 an hour at the next place. In fact, $15, $20 an hour at a place that has a meaning or a purpose that they connect with, that has a vibe they enjoy, and that has a team they want to be around and managers or leaders who care about them, who are putting effort into to make their life great, to create happiness for them, that 15 or 20 is easily worth 30 to them. Right. And you're like, no, you're crazy. Not a
No,
chance.
I don't
No,
disagree at all.
I've watched it over and over again. Right. And so it serves two things. One, it's this magnet that pulls in the right people that know they can come up with cash somewhere, anywhere they can get cash, but they're looking for belonging and meaning and a sense of contribution. Now I've got your second half. These metrics, we know exactly what we're doing. In fact, when we do this, we win. And I know I'm making a difference today. Pull those three things together, and you've solved the riddle out there that people are looking for. Give me purpose and meaning in life. Give me a place I belong. Give me a place I can have impact. And let me be surrounded with friends. A cool environment when it comes to these teens and these college students. uh, you've intentionally built it. And because of that, you've got great talent that stays around. These are gems. So thank you so much for sharing those with the community. Um,
Happy to share it.
I mean, and things are going great. And yet, there's always something more. The beauty of growth means we just run into the next obstacle that much faster. So, what are you playing with now? Maybe we can give a little bit back to Far Out Ice Cream and bring a little value to you, bring a little happiness.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that, that we're playing with now. Um, I there. What boy? um, I think one of the first things is like, how do I know what to say no to? As we're growing, as the brand is getting more uh, ubiquitous in the Boston area, I suppose. We have a lot of opportunities coming our way and a lot of people that want to be a part of it. So that's a tough one that, I have a hard time with saying no to people, with opportunities. I'd love to talk about that. And then the second thing that I think that in my mind is like, this core team, and we brought them on. It's kind of like this idea of like a wartime general is not the best, the same as like a peacetime general. Like, we have people that we brought on that, have taken on initial roles and really filled gaps for us. And I fear, and this isn't, an immediate thing, but, that some of them might not um, continue to uh, be able to do the position as we grow, you know um, and when do we bring someone else on? I mean, just the kind of personnel, what you're we just brought on another full-time hire, and it was like, all of a sudden this budget and this goal that we have for the year changes completely, because now we're paying another salary as opposed to an hourly, which is much much easier to justify in my head, and it's an investment. So and even bigger hires, someone that we give a chunk of equity to, or how do you determine when to do that, if ever, and how to do that, and what direction it's going to take the business, these things. And like, how do I continue to, pardon the expression, but like continue to level up? Like, what direction does the business keep going in? And how can I be sure that I am filling my head with the next steps each time? Is it clear? And this final thing I'll say to this is, like, I love Yvon Chouinard, the Patagonia founder. And, he's a big, like, I lead with my gut and my intuition. And if it feels good, I take the next step. And if it doesn't, I take the step backwards. And it's like, I really want to believe in my heart and my soul that there's a way to manage and that I can do that. But like, how do I make sure that, like, I'm always seeing the next step, period. Am I um, doing enough work on myself to continue to know how to grow this business?
Yeah. And what's the cost if you don't figure it out?
And am I the right person for the job? Because
Yeah, am I?
yeah.
That the if we solve this question of, as we grow, who needs to lead it, and how do I stay relevant, and what processes do I put in place to keep my gut in tune with the markets, right? Because that's what we're talking about. Like, how do I stay right there? How do I stay a step ahead? What's that look like? And how do I know if my team can do that with me, or if I can? Right? I mean, you opened that all up. Business is growing. Can the core team grow with it, or can't it? If it can't, am I creating happiness for them, or am I throwing aside those that helped us create this great thing in the first place? Um, right? What will happen if I put people above them and make them feel like I didn't believe in them anymore? All of this is rattling around,
Yeah.
and
Big
it
time.
could, a wrong turn could stall out your business entirely. Right? So your goals, roughly, how many team members have you got right now, full
So
time equivalent?
you full-time or part-time?
Let's say full time and then part time.
So there's five full-time, and then they're part-time, probably around 30.
Okay, so you got about 20 people collectively on a full time equivalent going across. Um, and I know you're no individuals. I have 35. I get it. Okay, so we've got a big group of people we're working with, and as you get to that phase, there's new work to do. One of the key jobs for August now is, how do I build leaders fast enough? Okay, because that's going to be your bottleneck. How do I build leaders fast enough that can embody the vision that we have today? And that culture can be leveraged, can multiply, can scale.
Right.
And somebody has to be doing that, and doing that with a good chunk of your time. It just becomes your biggest focus. And that's why you're dealing with the questions right now. So let's play with it. The value of it is, let's say we want a 10x. Well, we could either be stalled for the next 3 years as we try to figure this out, or we could achieve 10x in 3 years without much trouble, right? Just a matter of getting the financing, and it would be there because the product's there, the passion's there. We know how to do the branding thing. It's about replicating, right? You could do that if we can get the right people or help our people grow. So let's play with a couple of things. First one, you said, I don't know if I'm the right one, but you had a belief that you could level up. Fair?
I it's not that I don't know that I'm the right one. I question. Yeah, I suppose you could say that. Am I the right one? Yeah.
What's your question then?
Yeah. Am I the right one? I mean, if the question is this what I'm going to want to continue to do, and am I going to be the best person to do this? You
Okay.
know.
I think the first question is the one I would spend the most time on, which is, do I want to? Am I passionate enough about this that I want to see it continue to go? After that, I've seen so many people. I know I've heard from the investment community over and over again. Over and over again, oh yeah, you get to a certain point, this person can't lead at this next level, right? The startup, the founder can't be the CEO long term or whatever else. I, I've I've seen it over and over again that the founder makes it to 50, 100 million. That's not bad, right? And I've seen them go beyond that. But time and time and time again, I've seen them make it. But each of them had to shift and drastically change some things about themselves and how they spent their time and what their focus was. About every time you triple the size of your business, you're going to have a pretty radical change. So just think however many of those times. And if you're comfortable being uncomfortable, if you're willing to take that risk and keep going because you care enough about the vision, you'll be able to do it, right? With enough coaching and community and people around you, you'll be able to do it. So I'm not concerned about that. But you're asking the right question, which is I know I'm not the leader my team needs 6 months from now or a year from now or 2 years from now. So what do I need to do to get there? That same question being asked and answered is what we're talking about for your current team, too. They aren't the leaders they need to be today. How do we invite them to be the leaders they need to be in the future? Then, if they want to do it, we can get them there. Your second question there is for some of them, the speed at which they can get there may not be aligned with your growth
Yeah.
goals. So you have to choose that. And that's just a choice. But some of them whose speed may be slightly slower, their loyalties off the charts and their commitment and their whatever else, and innate abilities, that getting a good mentor hired above them is the key for them to grow, right? They just need that and they'll be up to that level and then that person can move to the next level after. And so messaging like that so you don't lose the hearts, the hopes, the aspirations of your current team.
Yeah.
Messaging, I want you there. I'm not good enough technically to get you where you need to be. Let's find your mentor and let's bring them in. They're going to lead this spot that I want you filling someday, and they'll move on and up. But let's find you that mentor. So the messaging can matter if that's helpful as you're
It
thinking about
certainly is. My only kind of question is, resource allocation, right? Is it the best use of resources?
it. Yeah.
Um, and I can give an example. It's just like, we could, in marketing, you could train the person to be the person, or you could go out and get an agency for the same amount of money. Um, and so, is it the best use of resources, time, that type of
Yeah.
stuff?
These are great questions. Obviously, I can't answer those on this call. And I
Ah,
couldn't I couldn't answer it ever for you. But here's a process we use as we think about it. So every quarter, at least, you and your leadership teams should be getting together to think about those OKRs, right, for your business and that next level. I want you to also think about, well, what does the business need to look like differently? So think not just operationally, but in a very strategic sense. Are we going to expand through franchise? Are we going to expand through a real estate model where we own the land? Are we going to have them own the land, and we just own the brand? Are we going to own the land and the teams? What's our expansion going to look like? And then go back to your focus on one thing. Let's figure out where our capabilities are setting us apart and go and do that exceptionally well. And then we can outsource the rest. So we have something that differentiates us strategically, not just in the product. That's a good answer, good question to answer, but also in the business model itself. Something differentiates us from others. And if we focus on that, we have to own the resources where we're differentiated. The strategically imperative work, we can't outsource that. Then you have strategically supportive work that's questionable whether you should outsource or partner to get that. Then you've got administrative kind of and other ancillary and movement of product that may not be your strategic focus at all. You can outsource that all you want to. but you need to manage it just as well and lead it just as well as though they were in house, or you lose some of the magic of what you've been doing. And so as a team, every quarter, revisiting strategically, we chose here. Is that still right? Yes, we believe that's right. Okay, so what are the core competencies or capabilities in our business needed to deliver on that strategic differentiator even as we grow? We're going to need to build this muscle. We're going to need to leverage this one better. Okay, let's talk about that. Now, what work in the next 3 months can we do to build that competency? What that does is you start to say, oh, this is the key business building work we need to do. Then step back and say, okay, now that we see how we are going to build, 4 years from now, when we complete our mission of 50 stores across the US, represented in 20 different states or something, whatever your mission is, let's show like the future organization chart. What roles would we have to have? We understand our strategic differentiators and where we have to focus to win. Now, what roles will need to be in place when that's running? And highlight them. No names. Then overlay that with, okay, let's pretend the current team is doing it. How many of those hats are my name? How many hats are her name? Right? How many we start to see and we start to say, there's higher value work, there's lower value work. How do we get this away from this individual? And we start to see who we can hire, and then how would that affect our cash flow when it's bringing in, when it isn't, and just start to live into that end mission and how the organization has to be set up. What it'll do, it'll start showing you which roles we have to fill when you start to say, hey, Johnny can manage up to 3 stores. He's got that capability, but I just can't see him opening 10 stores in a year. That's just not Johnny's thing. He's the stalwart, whatever. How do I? But he's in the role here. He would be the one filling this. When will we need to do that? Well, that's not this year. That is the following year or the year after that, that we needed to do that level expansion to hit our mission. Okay, so we can use Johnny at this point. We can begin networking and finding. We can tell Johnny, you've got to up your game here. And if he can start showing, then maybe we can use him. And if not, we're going to bring on someone else. But Johnny's done the key work to make the cash that we can afford this position that's going to help us now hire this mentor in time. So you can't have everything today. So you need to bleed it out. So just think, what's that future organization need to look like every year from now? And it's going to change. We're not going to guess right. But to get the first piece of it together helps to guide those decisions. I look at it every quarter. Now we're saying, where are we at? What's the next thing? Who's the big hire? Or what's missing between Johnny and the next level of work? Has Johnny just not been trusted with this kind of work? I'm going to have him
Mm.
shadow me. Or if Susan's already ready to go, let's just start adding to Susan a few more responsibilities. She doesn't have the new role. She's just taking on more work. And now she's proven herself. Now she owns that role. Now she's promoted. We're ready for it, right? The cash is there. She can hire someone under her to take this other work that takes her time. And so I use this future organization chart to help us think about it on a quarterly basis in line with the strategy. Is that too
So,
much theory?
what?
Was that too much
No, no,
theory?
this is wonderful. So it sounds like, the first step is to delineate between the stuff that's like our secret sauce and the stuff that is more administrative that we can outsource versus what is truly like
That's the
us.
first.
That's the first thing. And then from there, quarterly, what we're doing is just identifying. I mean, how far out do you look
Yeah,
into the future?
it's an exercise. Today, your size, you should be looking out probably 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
But August, once you get that and you're like, and we hit that mission and you start getting a bigger, better team around you, you're going to be itching to think about 10 years out. It grows. So it could be that 3 to 5 years is too much of a stretch and it's 1 year is the way you begin. And you'll stretch that. And as you stop doing so much in the trenches work and you keep rising up, you'll start seeing, if I'm not seeing into the future 10 to 20 years and surrounding myself with that kind of data, doing SWOT analysis way out there, looking at futurist type of stuff that they're talking about, trends and macro economies and things. If I'm not thinking this way out into the future, it will slow down your growth, and you'll kind of peter along again when you hit 70, 80 people, just because, right? And so
Yep.
you'll stretch your ability as you build your team's ability to handle the more immediate things, the stuff 6 months from now. Wouldn't that be cool to have a team like, I know they can manage all the decisions that are like 6 months into the future? They're going to be able to handle that on their own. That's fun.
Yeah.
You build that at every one of those quarterly meetings. You
Okay.
engage them in it. So there's a key. Trust them with this work. That's the way we stretch. That's the way we see that they can come with us down this path. So challenge them to think and act this way with you. Have them work on strategic work with you, not just operational.
Okay.
And it'll take you 3 or 4 of those quarters before you see some of them really stepping into it. But they do. They begin to step into it.
So right now I should be focusing more 1 year, and
With the team, potentially, if you
yeah,
haven't done that much, do a year. But you should have a mission that's out there so they know where that 1 year is headed towards. Something like, yeah, we're going to have this kind of big impact in 3 or 4 years.
great.
Put the
Yeah,
goal out there, but let's get a little more granular about this next year stuff.
it's wonderful. Thank you, David.
I'm glad that was useful to you. Our time's up. I'd love to keep talking with you because you had so many other gems. So if people want to try Far Out Ice Cream or get in touch with you because they want to own 10 of these franchises, how do they get in touch, or how do they try your ice cream, August?
Well, my personal email is August, like the month, um, at Far Out Ice Cream. So August at Far Out Ice Cream. Also, our Instagram tag is at Far Out Ice Cream. And then we have a website, www.farouticecream.com. So those are the ways they can get in touch. We are currently just in the Boston market right now. So we have a store in Brookline, a store in Fenway, more stores coming. And we are actively working to get our pints into grocery stores, which will expand our reach as well. So stay tuned for that.
Very cool. Thanks again. That wraps up this episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast, where we explored the ins and outs of the seven figure journey. Until next time, keep caring, keep growing, keep striving, keep learning,